Ukrainian troops have liberated 4 villages and settlements from Russian occupation in eastern Donetsk region, which is the venue of fierce fighting. Video footage showing the combat operation as well as the raising of the Ukrainian flag in one of the villages has been shared in social media. Ukrainian Marines announced full liberation of the settlement of Zelenski in the Novopavlovsk direction. In another operation, fighters of the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense jointly with the Brotherhood Battalion cleared the village of Iskra from Russians. Earlier, the settlement of Tolstoy in the same direction was liberated. Ukrainian troops also liberated majority of the Tovst or Tolstoy settlement in Donetsk region. Fighters of the 5th Separate Heavy Mechanized Brigade who seized the village have shared the footage of the combat operation in social media. The aerial footage shows Ukrainian drones relentlessly firing at Russian positions as well as Ukrainian soldiers raising the Ukrainian flag in one of the houses in the village. Thanks to the bravery and professionalism of the infantry units, UAV pilots, and artillery crews of the 5th Separate Heavy Mechanized Brigade, this result was achieved, the Ukrainian army stated in a post on Facebook.
An attempt by Russians to stage PR at the front, in front of cameras, ended in disaster for them. The occupiers who went on the attack under the flags of the USA and Russia in the Zaporizhia region were killed in full force. This was reported by the Z propagandists themselves. The Kremlin media reported that the Russians had launched an attack in a trophy American armored personnel carrier flying the American flag, celebrating the successful negotiations between Trump and Putin in Alaska. However, it all ended with the equipment being destroyed and the crew killed along with the landing party. As it turned out later, there was no American armored vehicle there. Amid the crackle of propaganda videos, a Soviet Gaz-71 went into battle, a tracked tractor mass-produced since 1968. 2 crew members and the occupiers' attack aircraft were burned along with the equipment, as reported by Russian war correspondents themselves. Netizens compare the incident to a farce, to march under the flag of the United States, which Russia calls the enemy, and die under a precise Ukrainian strike, most likely carried out with the help of American intelligence. Ironically, the incident occurred against the backdrop of Zelensky's visit to Trump, which gave the situation a grotesque tone. Russia wanted to hype again, and again became a laughingstock. Right social media users recall footage captured the moment Russian troops rode an American MM-13 personnel carrier they captured from Ukrainian forces on August the 12th. The video was shared by Russian propaganda media just days after US President Donald Trump met Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska in what Moscow cast as the end of its international isolation. Andriy Yermak, head of Ukraine's presidential office, condemned the video as the height of insolence. Russians are using the symbols of the United States in their own terrorist aggressive war involving the killing of civilians, Yermak wrote on Telegram. Russian propaganda outlets have increasingly praised Trump as a pragmatic peacekeeper while portraying Ukraine, Europe and the UK as obstructionist. Russian media frequently amplify Trump's past claims that either President Volodymyr Zelensky or former US President Joe Biden provoked Russia's war, a narrative that shifts blame from Moscow. During interrogation, prisoners from among the Russian groups that infiltrated Pokrovsk said that it had taken them more than 2 weeks to cover the route from Selidov to Pokrovsk, having suffered heavy losses from drones along the way. Yuri Butasov published the interrogation video according to Militani media outlet. Given the route the Russians took, they had to cover approximately 25 kilometers from the temporarily occupied Selidov to Pokrovsk. The interrogation of the prisoners captured by the 425th Separate Assault Regiment Skala confirms information from deep state analysts. According to the analysts, sabotage groups set out from Selidov to Pokrovsk in early July, and the entire journey took them 14 days. During this time, they spent 10 days covering the stretch from the village of Pichchany to the street of Zakisnikiv, Ukraini, on the outskirts of Pokrovsk. Thus, each day, the enemy infantrymen covered only 600 meters, hoping not to be detected. Communication, water and food were supplied by drone drops. Militani says, according to Deep State, 120 out of the 150 saboteurs were killed along the way. This is confirmed by the interrogation of prisoners. We had the 9th Company, 2 platoons, about 50 people in total. Only about 8 made it to Pokrovsk. On August the 16th, it was reported that the 7th Rapid Response Corps and adjacent units had completely cleared Pokrovsk of Russian groups and individual saboteurs. The slow pace of advancement and the high losses of Russian assault saboteurs were caused by the extensive kill zone that formed on both sides of the front line due to the very high concentration of drones. The ideology of the drone kill zone is being implemented, in particular, through the development of the Drone Line project. The main goal of the project is to develop the best unmanned systems units and scale their combat experience so they can become the backbone for weaker frontline units, Militani says. It's important to understand that what is commonly referred to as a kill zone is actually a zone of potential, not continuous destruction. It doesn't mean that everything within it is annihilated, nor does it imply that this is a grey zone. Both Russian and Ukrainian units are present in this area. However, due to the high saturation of strike capabilities, infantry can remain in position for months, showing minimal activity. Ukraine is forced to rely on the drone-based kill zone as its primary method of defense. Due to several critical issues, the state is currently unable to solve directly. Chief among them is a severe shortage of infantry on the front lines, which cannot be replenished at the current pace of mobilization. As a result, and to some extent for humanitarian reasons, it was decided that drones, not people, should fight. However, a drone-centric defense is extremely fragile. If the enemy manages to break through the strike zone or suppress drone operators with fire, resistance drops significantly. Militani says, in the best-case scenario, the enemy captures empty fortifications. In the worst-case scenario, UAV operators themselves are forced to engage in rifle combat. Unfortunately, this has already happened more than once.